Hello everyone. Welcome to the online teaching program of Sri Ramji Ravli Jalan College, Bhuj. This is Manoj Chhaya from Department of English, and we will be doing together BA or BSc Semester 5 affiliated to KSKVKU University, Bhuj, and the course that we are going to do together this semester is called Core Compulsory English or General English. The course code is CCEN 505, and the textbook that you are supposed to have is called Black Hills. The title of the book, which is your textbook, is Black Hills. It is published by Macmillan Education, and it is the prescribed textbook for semester 5 core compulsory or general English, BA or BSc, Sem 5. So I believe you all have the textbook. Here is the picture of the cover page of the textbook. This is the book you are supposed to have. There are other references which are supplementary to this book, which you are free to use, but this is your textbook. So we will be referring to this book throughout the semester for all our chapters. Before we begin with the syllabus and the units, let's have a look at the university syllabus. It is also available on the website. As you all know, the university website is kskvku.ac.in. It is the short form of the university name, KSKVKU University. So it is kskvku.ac.in. And there, if you go to various sections which are useful for students, you will find this syllabus even online. But here it is on your screen. So there are 3 units for arts students. For BSM 5 students, the examination, semester end examination will be of 70 marks as per this syllabus unless something is changed. And for science students, BSc Sem 5 students, the examination weightage for semester end university external exam will be 60 marks. For art students, it will be 30 marks internal. For science students, it will be 40 marks internal, which will be for all the activities that we do other than the university external examination. And if you look at the bottom of the page, it has the paper style too. Have a look at all the items which are possibly all the items which are prescribed by the university for your question paper in semester end examination. You will look at only section A. Only section A. Section B was meant for external students, but it is no more relevant. So you will have 4 questions in your question paper. Have a look, and we will discuss each assessment item in detail as we move through the syllabus. So there are short notes, brief answers, and then there are exercises from the section, from the second section, section 2. Here is the contents of the textbook. The contents page is on your screen. There are 2 sections. The first section is largely based on comprehension passages, and section 2 is about other writing and reading exercises as well as communication activities and the writing formats and everything which is other than comprehension passages. There is a reading comprehension in section 2 too, but that will be general reading comprehension, the kind that you get in competitive examinations and all. But section 1 is detailed reading, although it is also a kind of comprehension, but it is detailed reading for passages. And we have an interesting collection of passages starting from Premchand to Barack Obama to Narayan Murthy. So we are going to have a very good time. So let's begin with section 1 and unit 1, chapter 5 in your textbook, which will be our first session for this semester. The passage that is given at number 5 in the textbook is called What We Must Learn from the West, and it is a famous speech by N.R. Narayan Murthy, who is a well-known celebrity, and recently in 2020 he is named to be one of the most influential entrepreneurs and figures, not only in India but around the world. So let's have a look at this chapter. Before we actually start reading the passage, I would like you to go to page number 37 and look at the discussion topics which are given as pre-reading. Page 37, pre-reading. So there are discussion exercises before we begin reading. So you have to discuss with yourself, or you have to familiarize yourself with an Indian industrialist who has inspired you, and you have to gather details about his or her life and his or her contribution to India and the world. So that is number 1. Number 2 is, what in your opinion are some of the socio-economic problems that prevent India from reaching greater heights? And number 3, which is not listed, but I would also like you to focus on what are the characteristics or what are the attributes of Indian mindset or Indian attitude, good or not so good, whatever you choose, but what comes to your mind when you think about Indian attributes or Indian mindset or Indian attitude? Yeah, so these are the 3 pre-reading exercises that you will do before reading this. Then part 2 of pre-reading is familiarizing by reading the passages which are given on page number 37, and the passages are about the author and about the speech. About the author, about the speech. Narayan Murthy might be very well known to many of us, but nevertheless there will be some more details when we read this passage, and you can also read more about Narayan Murthy because he continues to be a very influential public figure and a celebrity and very inspiring entrepreneur too. He is almost a standard by himself and an institution in himself. So read about the author and about the speech. Take your time. Yeah, shall we move further? Just like pre-reading, after we have finished talking about this chapter, you will also do post-reading activities, which includes textual exercises on pages 40, 41 and 42, and you will read the full text of the speech, which is given in the link here on the screen. As well as you will also watch a video which is available on YouTube by Narayan Murthy. So there are 3 activities for post-reading session. But that is after we have discussed the chapter. But I'm just putting it here in advance so that you know that there is post-reading activity too. So this passage is an adaptation from a very famous speech given by a very famous celebrity, very famous Indian celebrity, N.R. Narayan Murthy. And this passage discusses what are the values that we must inculcate in our lives to be globally successful and make India globally successful. So at the end of this session, you will be able to comprehend the passage, of course, because this is an exercise in comprehension. Update your vocabulary, practice model auxiliaries, tenses, connectors, prepositions, and the passive. These are the grammatical items that you have already learned in the section on grammar. And make statements describing general conditions and habits. So these are the goals of our session today. If you look at the smaller goals of our session today, which is going to be for 1 hour, the smaller goals are: list what we must learn from the West. These are the unit specific goals. Understand why we must learn from the West. Learn some values honored universally. So these are the smaller goals, specific goals of the unit. But before we begin, let me ask you something. What do you think are the points you would like to list when you want to talk about India and Indians? For example, let me ask you, how do you feel being an Indian? What are your feelings? What are your attitudes when you introspect about being an Indian? I'm sure you are going to tell me that some of you are very proud to be Indians, and we should always be proud of whatever country we belong to. But at the same time, as Narayan Murthy suggests, we must also be introspective, and we should not turn complacent. So if I ask you, how do you feel about being an Indian? Probably you are going to tell me that you are very proud of India's culture and heritage, you are proud of India's values, and we have a lot of talks about how India has deep-rooted values, which we appreciate for sure. But at the same time, every civilization has its own values, and we must look at these values in particular. So when you look at some other civilizations, we can always learn from them. And in this passage, we are going to look at some of the values which Western civilizations practice better than us, or probably they practice more than us. And so gradually they have come to be identified with Western civilization rather than Indian civilization. So this is not to say that India does not have those values, but Western civilizations, Western countries have these values better practiced. So that is the first question. Sometimes you might even feel that being an Indian is not so much a matter that you should be proud of, and I'm sure you can see around you some of the things that you do not like or you do not appreciate, and we must work towards improving those things. My second question is to ask you about the writer, about the author, N.R. Narayan Murthy. Most of you would be familiar with this name, N.R. Narayan Murthy, but some of you may not have heard about this name. Personally, I believe that's not possible, that you haven't heard of Narayan Murthy, but Narayan Murthy is a very prominent figure, not only in India but across the globe. Here are some fast facts about Narayan Murthy. He is his worth, his assets, his net worth is 104 crores. That is 1.4 billion American dollars. 104 crores rupees, right? No, sorry, dollars. Yeah, these are dollars. So 1.4 billion dollars as of October 2012. So these are the recent facts. At present, he is 66, and of course, he has earned his name and his wealth from software industry. He is one of the pioneers of Indian software industry. His qualification, if you look at, he is Master of Science from Indian Institute of Technology. And if you look at Forbes list, he is ranked as at number 42 in India's richest individuals, at number 764 in the list of Forbes billionaires around the world, and number 31 in India. That is, he's ranked at the 30. He is ranked at number 31 among the billionaires in India. So these are some of the fast facts. You might also know him as the founder chairman of Infosys, which was established in 1981, and at present he is the chairman emeritus. He still holds the title chairman, but he is not the executive chairman. He is chairman emeritus. He has recently decided to be chairman emeritus rather than executive chairman. So Narayan Murthy is not an unknown name to us. Here are some of the awards and honors that he has received. If you look at the list, there are so many medals, so many awards he has earned for himself, and the authorities who have awarded Narayan Murthy are from across the globe. You can see the Hoover Medal, which is from United States of America. You can see also in 2007 he received Commander of the Order of the British Empire, which is of course from British government, and he has also received Indian honors like Padma Vibhushan and Padma Shri, apart from the engineering honors like in 2007 IEEE Ernest Weber Engineering Leadership Recognition. So his awards are global, and so is his reputation. And in this section, if you look at your textbook, almost all the passages that you have for comprehension and the 3 stories that you have are very interesting. They are an interesting read, and when you look at them, you will see that they have certain qualities, and apart from providing you an interesting read and an exercise in grammar and other things in language, these are interesting passages to read, and you can learn a lot from them. So we are going to read and we are going to discuss this session. In this session, Narayan Murthy's passage. Infosys, this logo probably is better known than Narayan Murthy is, and probably you can now associate Narayan Murthy with this logo, Infosys. And if you look at the tagline that Infosys has, powered by intellect, driven by values. And interestingly, in all Narayan Murthy's talks, interviews, discussions, his speeches, you will see there is an increasing emphasis on values. And the tagline also is powered by intellect, driven by values. Of course, we require intellect, but nevertheless, this intellect should be driven by values. So even in education, we have a lot of talk about value education, and value education has been introduced as a subject in our studies in schools, and values are now recognized even in education. Indian society traditionally has always been value driven, but over the years somehow some values are not so much well followed in Indian societies, and that's the point that Narayan Murthy thinks we must improve. So what authorizes him to speak about values and about Indian culture, or whatever word of advice he has for us? So, as he himself declares, his contemplation and years of experience, organizational and international success, and extensive global travel. Infosys being one of the global well-known companies, Infosys has a rich experience of working with people from around the globe. And as Narayan Murthy believes, organization is a kind of miniature of the larger society. So you can see that Narayan Murthy introduces this section by saying that he comes from a company which is based on values, and therefore his organizational success has something to do with the larger model of our country or of our society. An extensive global travel. It's not only the travel in the country, which of course he has done extensively, but it is also extensive global travel. And before we begin, let me also tell you that I would rather suggest that you keep this textbook with you at all times, and you can go to Unit 2 in Section 2A, Comprehension Passages, what we must learn from the West. And while we are discussing this lesson, you can go towards the you can go through the passages, and you can read, or whatever lines you think are important you may underline, and you can ponder over it later on. So let us begin. Okay, here is one book that Narayan Murthy has authored, and the book is titled A Better India, A Better World. And here he talks about his ideas at length, the same ideas essentially that we have in this section. And before we begin with the lesson, let me ask you to watch this video. Okay, we can watch the video later if time permits, but here is the title: Not an Interrogative Construction, What We Must Learn from the West. Usually we believe that anything that we start with what is usually a question statement, an interrogative statement, but here it is not an interrogative construction. But I would like you to focus on three words: we, must, and the West. The question is, who does this word we refer to? And apparently, as you read in the passage, you realize that we actually refers to India, we the Indians. Must, you have learnt in your model auxiliaries chapter that must refers to a sense of obligation and a sense of compulsion. As these things stand, Narayan Murthy finds it is absolutely compulsory, it is absolutely obligatory for us to learn from the West if we want to succeed globally. And the West refers to the countries which are located towards the West from India, but chiefly, as we know, the developed countries, North America and the European countries. So what are those values that we must learn from the West? That is what this passage deals with. The passage is a speech delivered by Narayan Murthy, and the speech was delivered in 2002. As early as in 2002, it was delivered almost 10 years back, more than 10 years back, and it was delivered at Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management Studies, where Narayan Murthy was there to award degrees. And so 10 years have passed since the speech was delivered, but you can still, when you read this speech or this passage, you can still see the relevance of the speech is still there. So it is not an outdated speech. So it was basically a speech. Now this passage, as you have, is modified from the speech, and at the end of this session I'll tell you, if you want to read the full text of the speech, it is available on the internet. As they say, a well-organized discourse is the reflection of well-organized mind. And as we have Narayan Murthy, a successful celebrity, we can see the reflection of his organized thinking in this passage. So the structure of this passage is like this. There is a key idea in each of the paragraphs in your book. For your convenience in reading, each paragraph or each key idea is titled in bold. So there is an introduction, and then there is a title in bold that introduces the key idea which is going to be discussed in the passage. So this passage is apparently a collection of several small modules. In each of the paragraphs, in each of the module, you have one key idea. Apart from ideas, in each paragraph you have some point or some arguments which are then substantiated with concrete first-person examples and analogies. Narayan Murthy makes no point without justifying it. So there are strong examples or analogies and conclusions. I mean, at the end of the paragraph you have some conclusion, some take-home advice that Narayan Murthy offers. So this is the structure. If you look at the key ideas, you have India and the West. I mean, the stereotypes, if you look at that, what we usually believe about India and what we usually believe about the West. How many of you think that the Western countries and the Western value system is not as good as India, or as good as Indian values? So probably you would be thinking that the Western values are not probably inferior, but these are stereotypes. And as Narayan Murthy says, that we are a society that is living in past. So we always brag about our past with as little accomplishment as we have in the present. So there are Western values and India, how they stand towards each other, Indian attitudes, how we can benefit, and what we must learn and do. So when we comprehend the passage, we will be looking at these examples. And let me tell you that comprehension passages have been an integral part of English textbooks for so long. And when you look at a comprehension passage, you must look at several things. One is, of course, you must look at language use, which includes grammar, vocabulary. And the other thing is you must look at the conceptual skills, how to organize the ideas, or how to present an argument, or how to